Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. I've been waiting to do this project for, wow, I'm going to say at least 2 years. Maybe 3. Because I know I got this saw back when COVID was fairly new. I don't remember if it was 2020 or early 2021. But it's been a while. So, what we're going to do is a full teardown on this thing. I don't think it needs any engine work. Fundamentals appear to be very good. Do want to test the spark. That I've never done. Switch is a little loose here. So, yeah. This saw was mostly complete, but it has a bum muffler. So let's rot it off right there. That's so common. And that's what was taking so long, of waiting for a muffler to appear on eBay. And finally this spring, one did. I just got done drilling out a broken off screw, so it's now usable again. This one doesn't have any cracks, any breaks. So it's going to go on here. We'll actually be able to make this thing run. But before we can do that, we need to go through things, and it's a virtual certainty that it's going to need a carburetor intake boot. I mean, it's just a thing, you know, that's how this works. So, I've already had a few parts off just enough to clean, but I have never done a disassembly video on this style of saw that I can recall, so I thought I'd do that. So this one is a traditional style air filter, unlike the 360s that were the updraft. This one draws in, so it's got air ducts right there, so it'll draw from either side. In theory, eliminating some of the sawdust. In reality, not too much. Good air filter. I don't know what happened to damage that little side, but it's not destroyed, and the grommet's good, so that's a win. Alright, before we go too much further, I want to see if she's got good spark. And on this style of saw, the absolute best way to do that is to prime it and see if it'll fire. So that is exactly what we're going to do. And we'll hope that the intake boot isn't so blown that as I was cleaning things up, a little water got in there. You never know. I am going to set the compression release because it has compression. And at 112 cc's, it takes a little effort to yank. Nice. I don't know what the hell it is. It's blowing. That's chunks of birch. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, she got spark. I'm stoked. So from here, let's go ahead and we'll take the starter off, and I will try to be good. As we're going through this, I'll find the right size wrench here. Give me a second. I'll try to be good, not let my excitement get the best of me, and I'll try to go through this in a lot of detail. Like, hey, I haven't looked on YouTube to see how much documentation there is on this style of saw, but I'm just assuming there's not a lot. So you got screw, 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 screw. 5 screws for the starter. Now, center one has a stud behind it. See that? Not uncommon for that to be missing, and I don't know why. It just is. So the starter appears to be in pretty good shape. We're going to put a new rope on it. This is the style that you tension by taking these 3 outer screws off and doing the old twisty springs in there. And I'm thinking we would have a spring mess if we just took this pulley off from the inside. I think the spring would explode, what I am saying. Alrighty. Now, I am not convinced that we're going to need to take the flywheel off. So I'm not going to yet. Be like taking any other flywheel off. This one is just big. So the bottom strap is a commonly damaged piece. Now this one I need to clean up a little bit more. And that, there is a little insulator in there. You don't want to lose that. I mean, if it's not there, it's not there. What are you going to do? I don't know if you can find them out there on eBay. I honestly don't know if I have any in stock. So if I do, I haven't sold one in quite some time. There's a snubber right there. It's nothing more than a rubber mount that screws in. So again, just a shock absorber for that bottom plate so that hopefully it doesn't break and get destroyed. The handle, you've got 3 screws here. And again, I'm not going to take a bunch more junk off than I have to. I want to get to that intake boot and I want to replace the muffler. And by removing that bottom strap, we're halfway there. Now, I'm trying to remember. I think to do all the hoses, we're going to need to get this handle off. So we're going to try that right now. Now these have a slot screw in them. And I'm not sure that that's what the IPO calls for. It's been too long since I worked on one. I would have expected a socket head. But these all are the same size and have the appearance of could have been factory, so the hell, they're all coming out, they're not getting tore up. We'll run with it. The top bolt here is a hex, but it's easier to pull the screw out of the side of the tank, at least in what I have found. Just leave that handle bracket attached. And that was actually loose. I see something. Nope, it's not stripped. So it'll just need a nice dab of Loctite once we get stuff cleaned up and it goes back together. Now, my vise is in the way. Maybe. There we go. I would say that this is distorted a little bit. Not a lot, though. Not a lot. I'm going to set this, where's that strap, outside for a little more cleaning. Okay. So we want to get to that intake boot. Let's pull the carb plate off. Now, this is kind of a funny little setup here. That is what holds your carb in place. Oh my. Oh, that's quite dirty. So you've got to have this aligned pretty close to right before you can get this to all start. So it can be a challenge, I'll put it that way. Alright, now those hoses are definitely roached. Seriously? There they are. So let's get them out of the way within reason here. The carb pulse hose is almost kinked in half. rust there. Not exactly what I want to see. This is the factory carburetor. This is the Walbro WB9. It's actually got a smaller, slightly smaller venturi than the WB, what was it, 2, I think, that was used on the 650 and Super 650. So it was a common thing for guys to get a little mod going and put the WB2 on here. Alright, so to get this apart, you actually have to, or to get the carb out, you've actually got to take the retainer here on the choke knob off, so that you don't jack up some linkage, like I was about to forget and do. You also want to try and avoid stabbing yourself in the thumb, like I just did. These little keepers are kind of a pain in the ass. Oh, yeah. Let me rephrase that. They're really a pain in the ass. Oh, yeah, come on. There we go. Okay, then you can just slide that knob off, and that releases the choke rod, so you can get it the hell out of the way. And then you can start working this carb up and out. You got to fight the oil line there. At this point, it's finding the right angle on the dangle. There we go. That is one dirty carb. This ran without an air filter, clearly, for a while. Now, the funny part is, from here, I wouldn't say that that carb boot is bad. Let's not risk it. You want to know how often you find a cylinder for one of these things? Makes finding a muffler look easy. So there's the decompression linkage in here. Try not to make anybody motion sick. That is a spring-loaded decomp valve right there, and you've got that screw on the side. So what I want to do is release that, take the tension off, and then I'll take that screw loose without tension on it. So the trick is just get it up to wherever you can actually get a hold of it to loosen it up without tearing it up. And if you're prone to dropping things, you might want to at least make sure the piston is at the top of the bore, so that if you drop it down the intake boot, you can get it back out. Which mine is at the top of the bore. Thankfully, the bore doesn't look, or the piston sidewall doesn't look all scored up from this crap that's in here. I don't like seeing that. Thankfully, it looks like all sawdust, but apparently at one time this thing was running a filter that was either blown out or just wasn't there. Alright, so with that disconnected, you've got your upper AV mounts, and then 4 chamber screws here. Some trash out of the way. I'm going to actually have to put a long extension on that. Now these, let me look before I speak. These are actually, threaded bosses. These don't have the ridiculous nut certs. Now that's the wrong term. The nuts with the little sheet metal retainers that the 450 and 550 have. Those suck. Those suck a lot. Because they like to fall out everywhere. Alright. Get our carb spacer out. That needs to be cleaned up too. God, it's a mess. And we're going to go for these AV mounts. Now we'll hope that they haven't done what they can do. There's a steel insert inside the rubber. And when that tears loose, getting these out can be a pain in the ass. We got lucky on that one. Whew. We're living good today. Almost makes me nervous. Okay, so from here, let's work that intake boot off of the lip and down. Just get it broken loose. Try and rock this up. And an AV mount appears to be stuck to. There we go. Ooh. That side's really stuck. Wow. Okay. It's been together for a few years. Doesn't want to come apart. Think I got that loose. Yeah, there we go. There she comes. Okay. Now we're just going to set that to the side for a minute. You might wonder why I didn't take that loose. Well, it's got a little brass ferrule on the end that half the time won't come off. And there's a grommet down here, and it's too small of a hole to fit that through. So what I like to do is exactly what I'm doing. Get it off to one side, out of my way, until I can get into getting the fuel tank off. Now that boot is not blown, but I have no clue how long it would have lasted. So it's going to get replaced. I'm hoping, I think I do have one in stock. I keep one in the shop, or at least I try to. Now, I can get to all those. Okay. So we need to get the AV mounts on the tank loose. Now that I put that in the way. Alright, still within frame. Screw, screw, right there. So get those out on this side. And if you're asking if I'm keeping track of these screws in my head, yes I am. Is that dangerous? Yes, it probably is. But it's worked for me so far. Final screw. So 3 on the tank, 2 on the throttle handle, and this one is shorter. Never have figured out why, but it is. Alright. Now these AV mounts are stuck on this side too. We'll see if they need any persuasion with the hammer or if I can get it the civilized way. It appears that one may need some hammer time, that lower front. All I'm doing is catching the edge. Basically using the shock method. These AV mounts are very much made of unobtainium, so you don't want to screw them up. I forgot. The bucking spike screws kind of stick out just enough right there. I'm just going to get that out of the way. And those nuts are greased into place. But I don't want to lose them. Really, on these saws, you don't want to lose anything. Some parts are out there, not many. All right. Go back to trying to get this pig apart. That's looking good. Lower one. Let me fight that. There she goes. So far, everything's stayed together. Let's see if we can get this to come out. Oh, come on. Come on, baby. You're so close. Looks like it wants to come. Aha. Little another shock mount that just sits loose in here. Right up in there, and you sure don't want to forget to put that in. It'll put a hole in your tank when you run it. Alright, so the tank is now hanging by the automatic oiler pickup hose. Gotta reach down in here and tear that little puppy loose. Tear being the operative word when the hose is rotten like that. Holy shit. Kind of greasy. Alright, now you can get to that fitting and take this throttle handle the rest of the way off. And that other fitting decided to spin. There she goes. I don't need the adapter fitting coming out. Come on, baby. There she is. Alright, so from here, you can do the intake boot, and that's as far as I need to go. If you needed to take the cylinder off, you're going to need to take your intake boot. I don't want to take that off yet. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and get it. I was thinking I still got some hose work to do, but I can still protect that. Alright, I'm going to leave that intake boot in place until I get that off. Four screws with 1/4 inch heads. And there she is. There's a gasket under here you want to make damn certain you don't lose. Again, you could probably figure something out for this, but why if you don't have to?
Hey, Daddy-o.
Hey, quit interrupting my video, kid. No, you're not. Okay. So this boot was going. See those stress cracks right there? So it wouldn't have lasted long. So I'm going to try and get this garter off without screwing it up. Same thing for getting the boot off of this intake. So at least it'll spin. Now if it was still any good, you'd be able to pop it off of there without too much trouble. Since this one's roached, my old buddy the razor blade will help us out. Again, it was flexible up high and losing its, stability down here where the garter spring was, so not something I see too much of. But something you should be aware of and look for, because you'd hate to to blow up one of these saws, because I'm not joking about finding a cylinder. You're not gonna do it in all likelihood. And if you do, I can assure you, whoever has one for sale will know just exactly what it is worth. Alright, now this is really starting to piss me off. There's no danger of a leak at the bottom here. Come on, baby. There we go. Okay, so it's just a plastic intake. Can only go one direction. The screws will prevent you from putting it in backwards like that. In fact, it'll prevent you. So, one direction. So, from there, if you needed to get the piston and cylinder out, you're going to be taking this shroud off. So you've got a screw, a couple on the bottom. Flywheel comes off like any old flywheel. This back plate has 4 or 5 screws behind it. It'll come off like any old back plate. You get all that crap off, you can get to the 4 cylinder screws there. Transformer's just like a 360. You want to be careful. Don't break that mount. The clutch. It's just like any old clutch. This is the 6-shoe version, so it's going to use the 2-pin puller behind there. Just like that. Nothing magical here. In fact, yeah, do I want to do that right now? I'm going to leave that on for now simply because I don't want any more parts floating around the bench than we need. Let's flip this over and take a look-see at the muffler. We could even mount the new one on there. I think I made that too tight. What do you guys think? Alright, so there's 2 socket head screws down in there, and there should be an upper mounting screw that's still in place here. I'll show you guys that in a minute. Okay. Nope. Nope. I never break anything loose with a ball head. And is just asking for bad stuff to happen. Well, that wasn't very tight. Okay, so these are 3/16. And it's really common for those to have rattled out and somebody to have scabbed in something it's not right, or to have stripped threads and oversized it to 5/16 because these are 1/4-inch threads. Okay, now normally you'd have something on the side to take loose, but not right now. There we go. Piston looks good down there. We'll leave screws with that old muffler. Let's flip this thing over, and we'll see about getting what's left of that old muffler off of the side of the engine here. So up in here is another socket head screw. I think it's one size smaller. There we go. At least it didn't fight me. I'm surprised. And there's the backing of the old muffler. So that, actually there should be 2, and the other one's missing here. So they go through here into the cylinder, mount that bad boy in place. So when we go to put everything back together, we'll have to find another one of those screws. I think that's where I'm going to stop the video for now, do a whole bunch of cleanup, and then we'll come back. Okay, man, what a mess. What a complete and total mess. That poor saw. Alright. Now that everything is basically as clean as it's going to get, I'm going to take this transformer off. Get spark plug out. I'm going to have to take a peek at my IPL, but I sure feel a tapered seat there, so this CJ4 doesn't belong in there. In all likelihood, that should have been a DJ6 with a tapered seat as opposed to the gasket. I'll verify that. Alright, with the plug out, just want to roll it over a little bit. That's just to make sure that any water that got in, and yes, there's always going to be some, will be dealt with appropriately. Should be good. And anytime it sounds that healthy without a spark plug, oh, are we in for a treat? This is going to be good. It's going to be great. Alright. I want to get that clutch off just for grins. We got it torn down. We're right here. And put a new rim on. So I'm going to put my flywheel tool. I didn't screw myself with where I put it there. There we go. Put it on the flywheel without the puller side. So it'll just sit there against my vise, and I'll be able to actually get that off without doing too much craziness. Now those were way too loose. They would have backed off in a hot second and eaten a hole in the damn drive case cover, which is no bueno. Not what we want to see. No, there's a beveled washer. I still like to put a little dab of Loctite on them. Not getting carried away, just a dabble. All right. Rig up a breaker bar here. So a model like this, it's bound to be tight. Trick is reefing on it without breaking anything. Even yourself. There she goes. I don't think the DeWalt impact would have taken that loose. Okay. Like I say, this is the nice 6-shoe clutch. This is, in my opinion, so much better than that later 3-shoe that had the lining. That just was crap. Well, alright, I shouldn't say that. It's nowhere near as robust, and those damn linings had a great tendency of just coming right off, so. Alright. Make sure I don't lose any of these damn washers. Okay. Now, the whole point of taking this off was to get to the rim and replace that. Again, since we're right here, we already had stuff apart. It's kind of one of those, well, why not? I'm just using a regular high temp disc brake wheel bearing grease. It's always worked great for me. And I'm actually surprised to see that there was still some grease on this bearing. So the previous owner, when they were using this saw, actually appeared to knew what they were doing. Alright. I hope I don't have to come back in for a crank seal. You might be thinking, well, why don't you just replace it now? Because I don't have any. I would have to order them. So, I'm going to gamble that it's good. Okay, where are my 404 rims? Alright. I had some. How do you know? A steel rim fits on a Homelite saw. Okay. Not a lot of wear in this sprocket, like hardly at all. Basically got a polish point. You know, so there's a small washer, a big clutch guard, and there's another small washer that sits in that recess right there. And then your clutch. It would help to spin it the right direction. Actually have it start. That's kind of persnickety. Alright, I'm not going to get as crazy on it. And that'll be good enough. Although, I have seen these clutches fly across the garage. Now it's good. Now it's great. Say, first time you have that happen to you, where you rev the saw real good, and all of a sudden you see this. Not cool. I know somewhere on video it's happened before. Somewhere. Alright. As I said, I want a little bit of Loctite on these. A little smidge of blue will work. Tight, but you also don't want to go ape shit on them and snap one off. That's not any fun to get out. Okay. So that is basically ready to go back together. Other things that we haven't looked at. Your automatic oil pump is just like a 360 mounted up front right here. And it engages the same way. There's a worm gear on the crankshaft that the clutch will cinch up and allow to drive the oil pump. You take that top screw out, Get a pair of vice grips on that screw and slowly work it out. I have no reason to pull it. I know it works. Because when I spun it over, the oil that was left in there went out. So I have no reason to pull it. But if you needed to, that's how you would do it from right there. Other than that, I just don't think there's anything that we haven't covered. So I may test that. That almost looks like a void right there where the manual oiler ties in. Almost like, that's weird. Almost like when you hit the manual oil pump, it might leak right there. That might be a casting flaw. So I'm going to try and remember to check that. If worse comes to worse, we'll put a little JB weld across there and seal it up. With how much grease and crap was on that oil tank, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? If every time the manual oil pump was hit, it just had a little right there. Interesting. Well, folks, it's dinner time, so we're going to stop right here. I'm rambling. We'll come back in a while and put it back together. Okay, everything is cleaned up. Let's go ahead and get the tank, excuse me, prepped with some new hoses. See how that broke off, even though the hose wasn't totally shot. The fact that it did that meant it was losing its elasticity. I would say it's a near certainty that this has had ethanol containing fuel. Again, I know it's hard to avoid, but not here in Oregon. Not too far in between stations that have what's called clear. At least that's what they call it in our state. No matter what fancy name you have for it, if it doesn't have ethanol, that's good. Boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, you know, chainsaws. Come on, baby. It is still warm. No, it's hot. 7:30 here, still 89 degrees. Good thing is Tygon is a lot more pliable than this one. Easier to work with. That stupid washer was supposed to be enough to hold that fuel filter in place. It wasn't.
Mommy says go.
telling you, it's like the family knows when I turn on the video. Open the door and be loud. So with this tie gun that fits so tight, just work it from side to side here. Pretty soon it's good to go. Alright, the oil tank still have plenty of oil in it, which I found out the hard way by the mess it made out there. And it's going to continue making a mess, I'm utterly sure of that. Miserable bullshit. Another telltale sign that the hose is rotting when it leaves that nice residue on your fingers. Also as good as swollen. Okay. Yeah, I've gone over this in other videos. That's why I put this angle cut. Any hose that's going to go in to the tank or in through an opening like that, I do that slash cut. Makes it easier to pull into place. And yes, I enlarge or lengthen the hose so that you're not losing anything. You still have the full length. And if anybody wonders what kind of wire to use, you can get this at a local hardware store. Just a regular old steel wire. Spool of that probably lasts you forever. If all you're using it for is to pull hoses. Okay. That's definitely too much in the tank, but we'll leave it that way for now. It's easier to do that than the other thing. Make a mess. No. Okay. A lot easier to prep this tank before she's mounted. Doesn't make for a very exciting video though. Come on. I managed to pull this hose off the barb after getting it started twice now. Make that 3 times. There we go. This is our carburetor pulse. All right. Now, get our new intake boot down. Alright, now that one, even though the other one wasn't totally stiff, you can see how much more pliable this is, so. Alright. Where, oh where, did I set that damn gasket? Ah, crap. There it is. Say in the worst case scenario, I would have taken the camera in the house, got the video to that point, and gone, what'd I do? So again, that fits only one way. You can see there's a recess in there. Okay. We're going to secure that in place before putting the intake boot on. That's always been the order of operation that I've used and found to work. Obviously, if you're doing this over a period of multiple days, you're going to either want to have baggies to label everything, or something to keep everything straight. Again, the easiest way is to just come in from the top, hold that garter spring as you try and stretch it around. And it's going to slip a couple times, because that's what they do. But then all of a sudden, whammo, there she be. Alright. I guess we'll go ahead and mount this fuel tank. But first, remember to hook up your manual oil line. Otherwise, you won't be able to get to it. I guess I'll test that port now too. Nope, nothing leaking there, so whatever that little casting faux pas there is I see is not doing what I was afraid it was doing, so that's good. Get this feed line hooked up. Oh, come on. I don't think you really need to piss me off, do you? Come on. Come on. Damn. There she goes. This weird ass angle isn't the greatest, but once the tank sits into place, it won't kink. That's what's critical. All right. So when you're lining this up, what I like to do is try and get the drive case side isolator started. And by started, I just mean the steel section slipped in a little bit. And then you just have to fight this side into place. There she goes. Alright, that's got to be close. Oh, yeah, very close. That might have got it. Okay. So those isolators I mentioned earlier were made of unobtainium. That's just a smart-ass way of saying good luck finding them. So what do you do if one's broken or that steel shell comes out? So you can see the steel right there. That can break loose and come out. Well, at that point, do nothing, quite frankly. Put it back in and put it back together. You can use a little super glue or something like that to hold it in place. That's not critical the way this is a captured system. It's got a nub that goes pretty deep into the rubber. Now, if the rubber comes out and leaves its outer threaded piece in there, I say do the same thing. Clean it up real good, a couple dabs of glue, put it back in. If for some reason you have to replace one and that steel shell is stuck in there, I've taken them out before like that and it sucks. You get a cold chisel and you start working the side wall apart, and basically you try and use the edge of the chisel to dig into the shell without digging into the outer housing and unthread it. If that sounds like not a lot of fun, you'd be correct. It sucks ass. But what are you going to do? So the best thing is, unless you know you have a problem with one of these isolators, don't screw with it. Just let them be. See if I got that. Okay. Fuel tank's remounted. So now you've got a mess of hose management to do. You got your manual oil line coming in. No. That's a screw hole. Manual oil line coming in there. You got a fuel hose coming in here, which I have too much. There we go. And then you've got your carburetor pulse coming up there. Again, they don't need to be hooked up to anything. You just got to feed them in as you're dropping this in place. You got to make sure that your decompression valve comes up through. I can't see my viewfinder. Make sure the decompression rod is up through there, and then you're going to start just working this intake boot up over the lip there. And you got to get these isolators started in their spot. There it goes. That's enough for now. Work that boot up. Obviously, you got to be somewhat gentle with this. You don't want to pry into the side and cut it. I'm just prying at the top, trying to work it out from underneath so it'll come up and in. And the last little bit is always a pain. But then all of a sudden, there she is. Okay, kink that. Let's drop. There we go. Nice affirmative lock in there. These isolators are actually in really good shape. I don't know why. I don't normally, have that good of luck, but all 5 of these are in excellent shape. I'm not going to tighten these all the way. is I want to tighten to the tank first so that we're not putting stress on anything. Leave that pile there. It pays to get one of the easier ones started first, because then kind of get your angle of everything set in place, which is key. Oops. Go ahead and start that one too. Yeah, we got it. Made in the shade. Little paint chip down there, which I don't need. Alright, I'm going to pull out enough hose to connect this manual oiler. This is the suction line. The nylon is the pressure side. And again, the way I do it won't be for everyone. But I just don't feel like messing with that ferrule. That's why I let the throttle handle hang until I get the tank off. It just works better for me. I don't have to risk damaging anything, getting aggravated. Alright, that little screw I said you don't want to lose is right there. So I'm trying to rehook that. Now the key here is getting that started by hand and getting it as far into that little cast arm as possible before you use the the lever there to pull it up so you can do the final tighten. Get as many threads in there as you can by hand. That way you lessen the risk of breaking something. Okay. There she goes. I think. Yep. I got it. Alright. We got that done without breaking anything. I'm thoroughly happy. So I'd like to bolt the carb on so we can finish the hoses off. We haven't gone through it yet. And that could be one stumbling block. I don't know if I currently have a WB. Look at that. K10 WB. What do you know? I try to keep stuff on hand that I know I use on occasion. Make sure there's nothing open in here. There isn't. Alright, well, we'll just leave that out. Maybe we won't need it. Maybe this carb was run dry. Hard to say not knowing. Alright. Angle the camera down a bit for the carb stuff. It shouldn't be too terribly bad. These really closely on the fuel inlet side, or the metering side. Yeah, the metering side really resemble an SDC. In fact, I would bet that the diaphragm is the same. Okay, so that's soft. The atmospheric vent has allowed some crapola to get in there, but not on the fuel side, so we don't necessarily care about that. there's some moisture in here. Pooey. So we'll go ahead and take it all the way apart just to check everything out. Now this has a plate, a circuit plate under here, very similar to some of the SDCs. Come on, baby. There she goes. Okay. Wow. Everything looks really clean. Really clean. And I just realized that I've been operating out of frame a lot. Apologies. Yeah, that's a little better. Dang it. I'm going to actually, at this point, assume that we didn't need to take this apart. Let's see if this proves me wrong. Oh boy. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this carburetor. So it's just going to get put back together, folks. We will pressure test it once this cover is screwed back on, just to make sure that inlet needle isn't a little funky. But I'd be willing to bet that it's not. I can get the camera zoomed back to something a little more normal. Look at that. Looks pretty damn good to me. Let's see how much of it we can put back together without bumping that needle. Just for grins. One of the other signs that I found that this thing had an air filter problem. See that goo right there? That is what's left of a dissolved grommet. And it got sucked in to the choke. And in theory, could have blocked those air bleeds there. Thankfully, it didn't. Alright, here's a real test. Can I get this diaphragm on without losing pressure? Oh, touch. There's still a fighting chance we'll get this thing assembled enough to hear a test run tonight. After all, it's Friday night. I can't imagine the neighbors are going to bed too early. Man, I like the way that's holding so steady. I also like that I can put that WB kit back in the bin of miscellaneous kits and have it there for another day. Okay. You guys have seen a WB carburetor. There's nothing magical about it. Okay. Before I forget, where the hell there it is. And I already forgot something, but we'll attack that in a second. Get this carburetor spacer in here. And all that is a stop to keep you from compressing that boot too much. Get this camera back up where it belongs. There we go. Alright, so remember we took the choke linkage off as we were getting the carb out. All that crap back out. Get this thing bolted into place. Just slip the choke linkage in. Yeah, I think. I shouldn't have hooked that up yet. I'll get that out of the way. Especially since I don't remember exactly which contortion it's going to take to make this go. There's that part. Hey. You realize if I wanted it to do that, it wouldn't. Dipstick. There we go. Slip it through the hole. Line these needles in the grommet. I mean, even this grommet is still pliable. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing going on here. Alright. So it's bumping up against the idle screw. I don't want to bolt the carburetor in place yet. I kind of want to see if I'm close. Ah, there we go. How's it going to stay put? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and hook the carburetor hoses up while I have screws started. This one side is not cooperating. Okay. There we go. I think. Damn, that's really annoying. Can't leave it that way, but at least until some stuff's hooked up. So I need to nip the cut end off of this pulse hose. There we go. Looking good there. Connect the fuel hose, which I need a little more out of the tank. Come on, baby. A bit more. There we go. Now I can get this hooked up again. Putts. All right. Off to the side, the plate will hold that down. That's working. Let's hook this choke rod back up. Then we'll attempt to bolt that top plate on. Clip on without shooting myself in the face. There we go. Alright, I'm going to leave the choke closed. Okay. And with any luck, saw it move a little bit, damn it. Hopefully it wasn't enough to wreak total havoc. But if it is, this plate should help us align. I think we caught it. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. Not bad at all. And that hit the bottom of the tank. So remember I said I screwed up and I said I shouldn't have? It's this little rubber thing in here. And I don't want to have to unbolt everything again. Ouch. I've forced it in like this before. It's pretty. And I wasn't in this saw vise when I did it. That may be the deal breaker here. Let's see. I need to be able to put a little force on it. Damn rubber thing. So easy to forget. Oh. Oh. Ha-ha. You're gonna go. Boom. Alright, so that wasn't that bad. Alright. So actually, since we're already almost upside down, what do you say we tackle the muffler? Let's actually go that way with it. I think you guys be able to see a little better what's going on. There we go. Hopefully I don't screw myself up too badly. Alright, there's my stuff from the old screw, or old muffler. So there's this flange that holds it in the cylinder where it's supposed to be. Now, I mentioned the tendency for stuff to vibe out, and that is real, so we're going to use Loctite on these. And I'm not going to feel bad about doing it either. Okay. Both of those threads feel good too, by the way. That would be a pleasant surprise. That. Having trouble getting it started, or it's stripped. I can't freaking tell. Yeah, neither one of those is started. Alright, I can't see shit, so I'm going to have to loosen these up. Come on. Looks like they're in roughly the right spot. I think that one grabbed finally. Yeah, it did. I don't get what's going on here. Damn. Well, that sucks a lot, you know that? Ah. God, I cannot see a damn thing. It's like this thing's not coming through the muffler. That didn't work. Thanks a lot, dipstick. Damn it. All right. Thank you. What is it? No. Something in this muffler is bent. Wow. I don't know if it took an impact or what. This isn't good. Not going to be any fun to do. Yeah, that's got to be bent. Shit. Alright, I'm going to do a little fussing off camera with this. I could waste a lot of time trying to do this. Basically, I've got to figure out... It looks like it's torqued back this way a little bit. Yeah, it's got to be. Because I can't even... Oh. Well, and that doesn't help. Maybe that's what I'm seeing. Screws broken off in the head there. That part sucks. That really sucks. I will try a reverse drill bit, and if that doesn't work, I'll try drilling and tapping it, and if that doesn't work, I guess we are short one screw on the muffler. We'll be back. Well, that was a fool's errand. There was no way in hell that screw was going to drill out. The drill walk started immediately into the softer metal, and that's just annoying, but it is what it is. So it's going to get attached as best it can, and good enough is good enough. Because I don't need that kind of bowl. It wouldn't even correct by drilling at an angle. It just kept walking down and sideways. So it is what it is. Ball end is in great shape. All right. That muffler is there. Let's go ahead and put on our throttle strap. Come on. You annoying piece. Come on. Now, hope that grabs. Now, always. Nut that's captured up underneath the rubber that you gotta try and catch. And par for the course. All right. Go ahead and drop the starter on. We'll get the throttle or the main handle on. And then we might just do a quick test fire before it gets too damn late. Then I can call it good. See how much of a pain in the neck this is going to be getting this thing to go back where it belongs. Oh yeah. Not playing nice in the sandbox at all. Okay. Let's see how this goes. I'd sure be happy if that went. There we go. Yep. There it goes. Not something you want to cross-thread or strip out. Although at least this you could helicoil without too much hassle. But why if you don't have to? Know what I mean? Alright. My ill-fated attempt at fixing that muffler stud, I took this shield off and put it back on. And I still need to scrounge around and find my cover that goes over this. Got one somewhere. I'm not gonna dig for it tonight. I think what's next, get this tightened down. Spark plug in it. And we will see real quick if she wants to run. And I was wrong. This is not a tapered seat. It does require a gasket. The manual calls for a CJ4 or CJ3. That's no longer in production, of course. CJ4 will interchange. I'll run a 6 for now, because that's what I have. This thing back down. No, thank you. Get it back on the perch. We'll make a test run just a smidge easier. You know what I mean? Love to hear this thing pop. Pulling fuel on its own, because there really isn't much else to put on. We've got the air filter and cover. We've got the drive case cover and that bucking spike. Oh, such good compression. Which is pretty normal on these, provided they haven't been abused. This one's been used, but I don't think it's been abused. Let's see if we can get this thing to fire. A good way to end this evening. That's enough for tonight. Whew. I don't know if I've got it a little rich on the low side or I think I've got a little rich on the low side. I think. But plenty of time for tuning tomorrow. I still need to replace the starter rope. You know, and go through the starter and do all that. Just wanted to hear it run. But there you go. There is probably the most disassembly that any of you are going to have to do on a 650 or 750. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what you're getting into and some of the pitfalls to look out for.